Welcome to Community Crypto on CoinDesk TV, where we are building a global community with local crypto groups. I'm your host, Isaiah Jackson, and every week we'll explore how crypto is creating and impacting various communities around the world. This week, we discussed the booming Bitcoin communities in North Carolina. Cities like Charlotte and Raleigh are starting to have increased participation in the Bitcoin market, and it's my pleasure to introduce what's happening in my home state this week. I'm joined today by Alex Adelman, CEO of Lolli, one of my personal favorite Bitcoin companies. Welcome to the show, Alex.
Hey, good to be here.
Oh yeah, great to be here, brother. And before we just discussed, we're both from Charlotte, North Carolina, the biggest city in North Carolina. So yeah, what was it like growing up in Charlotte for you, Alex?
Oh, it was a good childhood. I think one of the things we'll talk about kind of later is that I think everybody sort of has like some sort of connection to the bank, whether it's like your dad, your mom, your uncle, your godmother, whatever it is. Someone has some sort of connection to like the banks. I think banks are we're so dominant. I think even in the U.S. as a whole. And as far as like a childhood goes, I think Charlotte was like a great place to grow up. It's near the mountains, near the beach. Good way of life. Pretty great.
Oh yeah, and I agree with you there. And I'm glad you brought that up. Being from Charlotte, like you just said, I have an uncle, I have two aunts, I have a grandmother that worked for the bank, 30, 40 years. You can't escape it in Charlotte, right? So just imagine, running around Charlotte trying to tell people about Bitcoin. It's definitely was a learning experience for myself. I don't know about you, but kind of tell us what kind of sets Raleigh apart from Charlotte as far as in North Carolina dealing with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency.
Yes, so Raleigh-Durham, Chapel Hill area is, for those that you don't know, is called the Research Triangle. So there's Duke, there's State, there's Chapel Hill, three of the best colleges in the country that are all within 20 miles of each other. So you have this sort of like tech capital that's like everyone comes out of, and a lot of it generates a lot of like PhDs. I think if you counted it all as one city, I think it's one of the highest densities of like PhDs in the country. And so there's just a lot of talent there, and it's why there's the RTP Research Triangle Park was created as this like tech hub to bring a lot of the tech companies like IBM, Cisco there. And then over the last few months, Apple and Microsoft just had huge announcements to come to RTP and to expand there because there's so much talent here. So in some ways that's really good for us. In some ways it's bad for us. I think the price goes up for a lot of like talent, but it also attracts a lot more talent from the major markets like Boston, New York, DC that want to come down and have like a lower cost of living, but still have a great job. So I think like North Carolina is pretty much dominated by, as far as like jobs go, by like Charlotte and the RTP Research Triangle area.
Oh yeah, and people don't realize, in that Research Triangle area, as a former graduate of NC State, everybody there went to college. It seems so. I mean, you don't notice it until you live there, but everybody went to Duke, Carolina, NC State. And then they stay there. That's, I think, a big part of Raleigh is, it's very cheap to live, very nice place. So if you throw in the tech on top of that, why not? And I think we'll pass, some of these other tech hubs simply because cost of living is low. And like you just said, Apple just came there. So it's not as if it's not growing, over time. So let's get into a little bit about yourself. We know, like you say, you're from Charlotte and you are the CEO of Lolli. What made you want to start that company and also have it stationed in the Raleigh area?
Yeah, great question. So I've been building technology since I was about 12. I think, I was probably like a lot of kids where parents got a computer for the family and I just sort of gravitated towards it as a way to build. And I remember going to, speaking of kind of education in North Carolina, I remember going to like robotics camps and architecture camps growing up and really learning like at local Queen's University in Charlotte. And I remember like learning like from a young age, like that one, you could make money by building companies on the internet. And I also like would be moving money all around the internet because as I started to work with local businesses and realized like I could make websites, back-end platforms, I would do these like, one-off jobs, and I would realize like if I was hiring engineers, I could charge more because I could build bigger platforms for people. So I learned a lot of that, by myself, clearly, just being on the computer. But then there was like the local support of like local universities that were available for me to like take college level courses or be taught by college professors at a young age. And clearly, my parents, did everything they could to make that accessible to me. And so I think like it was I went to Chapel Hill. I studied economics. I think, Chapel Hill was a great like college, state university. I think every year it's like top 3 is like the most affordable, best educations in the country. And so I think NC State, incredibly like affordable, incredible education, especially for engineering. Chapel Hill, like great education, business and economics and some of the sciences as well. So I think there's like a lot of like affordable education in North Carolina, which really makes it great. And while a lot of my learnings were like self-taught, they also, I think, were, supplemented by the state-funded education system. And I think one of the most interesting things of like how I got to learn about, crypto and got into sort of a lot of the problems with banking is because we grew up in an area that was so connected where to banking. I think a lot of like, it was always like part of the conversation. Like, even if you knew what your parents did, or you knew what your, friends' parents did for the bank. And so you had some understanding of the bank. You weren't completely naive to just like use the bank as a utility function of like going to the bank, put your money in. You had some sort of understanding of like how a bank made money or made money from you. And so you could kind of understand like what the problems were in the banking institution. So I do think like Charlotte was kind of like, people that are from Charlotte do have like a better understanding of banking and the problems of banking more so than other places in the US from my understanding. And then the research triangle, I do think there are a lot of like college educated individuals and jobs that they've been able to like retain great talent there. And there clearly is some, brain drain to New York and San Francisco. But for the most part, I think the research triangle area is able to retain a lot of people because there are so many great tech jobs in the area.
And I want to circle back to what you said about Charlotte, everybody knowing about banking. I don't think people understand that you can't escape it in Charlotte. So when people ask me, how did I get into Bitcoin? Like, it's kind of because I grew up in Charlotte. I mean, it was banks everywhere. And I'm just kind of like, all right, so if this is something different, let me go that route because everybody's involved in it. And then also, as you said, a lot of the brain drain from Raleigh going to other cities. Do you think that will reverse and they'll come back, especially with COVID coming about and a lot of people working remote? Why wouldn't you want to live in an area that is cheaper and still tech focused, and you may even, get with the company there? Do you think that'll reverse? Do you think more people will come to Raleigh?
I think way more people are going to be coming to Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill area. I was just on a call with a realtor, and the realtor said that there was this house that I was looking at that like went on the market, and it was like a day prior it went on the market, and it was I think it went on the market on a Friday. And he said that the close, like when you can get your last offer in, was Saturday night. So it was on the market for not even 2 days. And I asked him, I was like, I mean, is it worth even competing for? Like, I didn't really want the house, but I was just curious. And he's like, there will be at least 30 offers within 2 days, sight unseen. So people are moving here like crazy. And it's just, the market is like, it's growing. And there's not enough homes to support it. And so the prices are skyrocketing. And he was just like, he's like, look, I'm just a realtor, but he's like, people are coming from San Francisco, they're coming from Boston, they're coming from New York, they're coming from all these major markets. And a lot of them are like from North Carolina or have some sort of ties here and are coming back because the timing to come back here is great. You can work remotely, you have great jobs as a backup, or you have jobs that are pulling you into the Raleigh-Durham area.
Absolutely. And I love it for Raleigh, simply because, lived there for 7 years. So I always want to see them succeed. And of course, let's get into the company you started, Lolli. What was the mindset around starting it? What was the goal for starting Lolli?
The goal is to give Bitcoin to as many people as possible. It's to both like teach people about Bitcoin and then also create a easy, risk-free way for people to get it. So the first wave of adoption for Bitcoin was through mining, which wasn't very accessible to many people. The next wave of Bitcoin adoption was through investing, which is still not very accessible to many people because most people are not investors. And then the wave that we're trying to really lead, which is the wave around earning through shopping. And it takes something that everybody does, which everybody shops, and many people understand and want rewards. And so it attaches this really great incentive of saying, every single time you swipe your card, could you be earning Bitcoin back on all your purchases? And as you know, I think as a Lolli user, you can earn from over 1,000 different merchants. You can earn upwards of 30% on an average of 7% back on your everyday purchases. And it's a great way of getting people into Bitcoin. So we started it with trying to make it Bitcoin more accessible. And yeah, we've had a lot of success so far.
Oh yeah. And as somebody who teaches about Bitcoin, my ethos is meet people where they are. And like you just said, everybody shops. So the easiest way I think to get people on a lot of times is Lolli, because you tell them, hey, passive income, being able to make money without having to do anything extra, why not? And I mean, even myself personally, I eat way too much Postmates, but Lolli has helped me get that money back and more, simply just by getting, those rewards from that. So definitely a great entry point for people. And in the local Raleigh community, have you seen any, as far as talent, any new developers or new ideas coming to increase the market of Lolli? Have you seen that in Raleigh?
I have not, unfortunately. I will say that like we are one of the hottest companies in Raleigh-Durham, and part of that is because we're consumer facing. So like a lot of the companies in the Raleigh-Durham area focus on like healthcare, enterprise, back-end systems, education for some. So to have a consumer company that is in such a frontier space like crypto has been an incredible place to attract talent. Like I think most jobs we only have left up for like 2 or 3 weeks. So we're able to attract, I think, the best talent, which I think it shows a sign that a lot of the best engineers in the Raleigh-Durham area are attracted to crypto, which is a great sign for us and probably future companies that want to start in the Raleigh-Durham area. You can attract talent where you can pay them way more than they're currently making, but they're still living like, an incredible life because it's so inexpensive relative to SF or New York or Boston or LA. It's so much more expensive to live and thrive in the Raleigh-Durham area, and you can offer competitive salaries. So we as like a tech company have been able to offer like incredible like salaries and rates and everything to our talent, both like tech talent, support talent, product talent, really anyone. And there's just so much amazing, talented, well-educated, experienced people in the Raleigh-Durham area that we've just found it's like an incredible place to build a business. And a lot of people don't know this, but this is actually our second company that we built in the Raleigh-Durham area. The last company was mostly based in the Raleigh-Durham area. We started it 10 years ago, had a lot of success there. And while I do have criticisms of like local government and wishing that like they had done more to sort of attract us and retain us, other than the fact that like our network is here, I have open criticisms about what we could do better as a state to attract and build more. It's not the most crypto-friendly state to operate in, but we are building a company here because there is great tech talent. So that is one draw of it. But I think we could do a lot more, especially what we're seeing with like Wyoming, what we're seeing with Florida, to attract tech companies and more specifically crypto companies. And if a state wants to attract the future of commerce, the future of fintech, then they should be crypto friendly. And unfortunately, North Carolina is not the most crypto friendly. And I think that they need to be looking at places like Wyoming or Florida that are being way more giving way more advantages to tech companies and crypto companies.
Absolutely. And again, when you say that, I used to say it all the time, starting in crypto almost a decade ago. It's almost impossible in North Carolina to get people to listen to you. And I'm sure you've had some of those things, because to me, it wasn't forward thinking. They, sort of catch it when the wave starts. But yes, I think people need to understand that you fuse the tech and then Bitcoin is the future with cryptocurrency. It's a no-brainer. Why wouldn't you come to Raleigh? Lower cost, higher income. I mean, what is there not to love about it? Carolina, and there's a little bit late to the party, but now that they've shown up, a lot of times I think, like you said, North Carolina wasn't friendly before, but maybe we can change that with your company and others, right?
Yeah, a lot of the state legislature and the individuals that make up the local government, I think that they have, because a lot of the lobbyists come from the banking world, they do have a better understanding than most. They're just very slow, and they haven't adopted this crypto friendly legislature. So it's been frustrating, I think, to be honest, because we want to build here, we don't want to move, but we have literal other states that are saying, hey, come here, this is a great place to build a company. We give you tax benefits. We want you to be. I don't feel like North Carolina wants us to be here, or has made it easier to stay here. So it's less and less reasons to be here. That said, a lot of great tech talent, but I do think if North Carolina wants, as with most states, if they want to attract the best businesses, which I believe will be crypto businesses, are one of the best businesses, North Carolina kind of needs to change and adapt to this new world. And I think that they have every reason to, because before the financial crisis, 2009, Charlotte was the second biggest banking city in the entire country. I believe behind behind New York, and then after Wachovia was purchased, or Wells Fargo, by Wells Fargo, I think is what happened. Then it dropped. I think behind San Francisco and Chicago. So if we want to be competitive in the future and sort of regain our throne behind New York of being a financial hub, I think we need adopt companies and attract crypto companies to be created in the Raleigh-Durham and largely Charlotte area.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And of course, like we said, hasn't been very crypto friendly. I will say that. But if you had to give somebody the best selling point to come to Raleigh, what's the best selling point you could give somebody to leave a large city and come to somewhere like Raleigh, where it is expanding and growing? What's the biggest selling point?
Great tech talent. Everybody needs engineers, and there's a lot of great tech talent here. And low cost of living. It's a safe place. It's a nice way of life, and there's good restaurants. And it's near the mountains. It's near the beach. It's just Raleigh-Durham area is a wonderful place to live and raise a family and build a company. So I recommend it, and I'll fight and lobby to make it a more crypto friendly state as much as I can. So I would recommend North Carolina as a great place to build a company.
Oh yeah. Any political aspirations for you, Alex, to try and keep that fight going with some of the the current legislatures?
I love hate. Some days I want to go be president of the United States because I want to make the world a better place, and then other days I'm I can have way more impact in private sector and doing what I'm I think really great at, which is building teams, building companies, building technology, and there. So maybe if I get frustrated enough with the government and after many years of building in the private sector, I'll be crazy enough to go run for some sort of office. But every once in a while I get the urge, and then when I think about it, I'm I think I'll start another company, or I think I'll keep growing bigger. But I do think there's a lot of change that the government can have, and I do think there's a huge impact that the local government can have on a people. So I see it clear as day as the changes that I would come in and make, and I wish our local politicians saw it as clearly as I did. That would add to the the general jobs, people's wallets, everything. I think local economy, I have some pretty good ideas about. And if I'm not able to enable the local politicians, maybe one day.
Yeah, I got you. And if not you, who are some of the other local people that are big in the Bitcoin space that you know about? as far as maybe moving forward? Who are some of the other people you've seen pushing Bitcoin in the Raleigh area?
I wish more, to be honest. I feel like there's like very companies that are not, I mean, there's tech companies that are like healthcare and education, based, but I mean, I think we need to attract more crypto companies the way that like Wyoming has, done a great job of. But I think because crypto companies are so almost like mostly distributed, and we are largely distributed, even though we have a hub in the Raleigh-Durham area, that I do think that we are kind of setting a precedent as like North Carolina being a great place to start a company and have a hub. But I really haven't seen a lot of like local leadership to emerge. I did see, Binance kind of had an office at some point, but I don't know if that is continuing. But I think it's like us, and I don't know. You might know more people that are building, but we're pretty heads down building in the area, and I haven't really seen too many others.
Absolutely, and I would say I think Casa Hold is in the area.
Yeah, I didn't want to blow up Jameson's spot or anything. I'm not sure exactly where he lives.
Lop is like the guy all over the world. So where's Waldo? So I didn't want to blow up Lop's spot, but also Max Kaiser's in the area, I believe. He's the guy who actually introduced me to Bitcoin. So it's crazy.
We have Jason Williams.
Jason Williams, yep, in the area. And
Pomps from North Carolina.
North Carolina, and that's what I think is great. Is like the biggest names in this space are from North Carolina, but North Carolina isn't crypto friendly. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, I think Jeremy from Kraken's from North Carolina, head of product over there, and former CEO of Casa. Catherine Coley, former CEO of Binance. She went to I think from North Carolina, went to Chapel Hill. So yeah, we do have some really good talent, and also Fred from Coinbase, Fred Ursham, went to Duke. I don't know if he's from North Carolina, but he went to Duke. So a lot of like people from crypto went to Duke. They had a big crypto program early on. So there's probably more. So leave it in the comments and let us know if you're from North Carolina and want to help build the North Carolina crypto ecosystem. Absolutely.
And I think that's the only issue is we just didn't know each other. You know what I mean? I meet people and they're like, I'm from North Carolina. I was like, what? Where? You know what I mean? I just think now with this show coming out and of course with more things happening in North Carolina, I think we just need to get together and meet each other. I mean, a lot of us are just kind of spread out and just understand that we exist. Absolutely. So love that. And I want to finish you off here with one last question. Looking towards the future in the year 2040, where do you see the Bitcoin market and what place will Lolli have in it?
Yeah, so I want Lolli to always be the way that people adopt Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. I think that the Bitcoin will hopefully be the global reserve currency of the world. For both individuals, institutions, and countries. I think that Bitcoin plays an incredible part in the history of humanity as giving people a reserve currency that they can trust because it is trustless. And so I think that plays a huge part. Bitcoin plays a huge part in the future. I think Lolli plays a huge part in that future of making Bitcoin more accessible to everybody. And eventually, building products down funnel that give people the ability to buy Bitcoin, buy stable coins, pay with stable coins, pay with Bitcoin when people want to pay with Bitcoin, probably by the year 2040. And then forever earning Bitcoin, I think, will be a huge part of our business. And then eventually, working with all of our merchants to accept Bitcoin, accept stable coins as a method of payment. And giving our users the ability to use cryptocurrency as a medium of exchange and a reserve currency of their choice.
Oh yeah, and I just want to throw this out there. I'm not trying to say I'm a predictor and I'm not a prophet, but it would be interesting to see Apple have their products on Lolli and y'all merge together in the Raleigh area and earn Bitcoin off of that. Oh man, I think 2040 would be by 2040 we should be able to get that going. So let's see if we can. If we can get this push.
We're not interested in acquiring Apple yet, so I'll, we got to grow a little bit more.
Oh yeah,
but yeah, we'll see if they can afford us.
It's worth a shot. Exactly. We'll see if they can afford you. Absolutely. And I just want to throw this out to people from North Carolina. You went to Chapel Hill, correct?
Yes.
And I went to NC State. Look, people, we agree on a lot more than we disagree about. The rivalries, Duke, Carolina, NC State. We don't all hate each other. So it's definitely, we're working in synergy here, especially when it comes to Bitcoin. You definitely join that community. So I definitely want to thank you for coming on to the show, Alex. I appreciate your insight, and I would love to meet up with you in Raleigh and talk more.
I'd love that. Let's grab some barbecue and some beers or something. Would love that.
Sounds good. I appreciate you. Thank you, Alex.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Next up, we move from Raleigh to Charlotte to discuss Bitcoin adoption in one of the biggest banking cities in America.
CoinDesk Indexes, the market standard for crypto assets since 2014. Our trusted data powers billions in publicly traded funds. CoinDesk Indexes are the standard used by institutions, and they're the key for investors looking to understand and access crypto markets.
CoinDesk Bitcoin Price Index (XBX) has been instrumental to Grayscale, enabling investors around the world to access Bitcoin through a regulated, familiar product.
CoinDesk Indexes enabled the early adopters to build crypto investment vehicles, and they're already trusted by a new generation of global investors.
Welcome back to Community Crypto. This week, we are discussing Bitcoin adoption in a banking city. And I'm joined today by Jacob Parrish and David Seroy, the organizers for the Bitcoin Charlotte Meetup Group. Welcome to the show, Jacob and David.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having us.
Oh yeah, glad to have you guys on. Being from the Charlotte area, we've discussed, a lot about Bitcoin, but one thing I want the people to know is, Jacob, you can start. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got introduced to Bitcoin.
I was introduced to Bitcoin from my brother, actually back in 2010, and it's been a wild ride since then. My background, I'm a web developer, actually, front-end web developer, and I did that for 15 years. I ran my own business. And when I moved to Charlotte, I started Bitcoin Charlotte in 2013, and I've been doing that ever since. And it's been kind of a hobby, and it's kind of turned into more of a full-time thing for me now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And also let the people know what's the alma mater, so everybody can know.
NC State. Yep. College at NC State.
NC State. Got to make sure we put that in there. Fellow NC State grad, but yes. David. So, go Wolfpack, baby. So, David, let us know about your entry into the Bitcoin space. What is your genesis story?
Yeah, well, I'm kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum. I'm relatively new to the space. I mean, of course, like most people, I'd kind of heard about it in the run up, but it wasn't until right after the pandemic where I kind of dove down the rabbit hole, really started asking that question of like, what is money? How does it work? All of that. And I think I was initially attracted to the kind of more philosophical aspects of it. And then I just happened to be like, whoa. And the use case for this is just incredible. You see the growth. And so it attaches to all these different aspects of it. But that was kind of the initial impetus.
Oh, yeah. Yep. And I just want to ask you, Jacob, what was the process for starting the Bitcoin Charlotte Meetup Group? And how were, sort of the early days of meeting?
So the process was, I actually lived in Richmond, Virginia, and there was a little bit of a meetup there, and someone else was running it, and it was right when I was leaving. I was like, well, I got to do this wherever I go. So moved to Charlotte, and there was actually someone that had started something, and they called it the Bitcoin University or something like that, and I just there was no activity. I took it over, and the early days we met about once a week, and there was about three or four of us that were pretty core to the group. We'd get to like maybe 5-7 people, and that was that for about 4 or 5 years in Charlotte. We got some bigger meetups going on, and we had a few presentations that we had advertised a little bit, but not until maybe 2017, 2018, we got some bigger names come in, and we did some presentations. We had upwards of 70 people. But the early days were just simply a couple of nerds going to spend Bitcoin at local restaurants and stuff that were accepting. There's only a few places, and I think they still accept here as well. So.
Oh yeah. Now let me just say, I was one of those nerds that actually went to one of the meetups in Charlotte a while back. It was crazy because thinking back to that time period, it really was like 5 people just drinking beer and talking about Bitcoin, and now you have massive conferences. So it is crazy. But yeah, with that meetup group going, and David, your entry into the space, especially at a pivotal time, how important do you think Bitcoin is in a banking city like Charlotte?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. I think it's incredibly important, but I am curious to see how Charlotte and really North Carolina and some of these other states interact with it, right? I mean, Charlotte is trying to identify itself as fintech, but fintech is the innovation layer on top of the legacy system, right? And Bitcoin is bringing in an entire new monetary system. And so I think Charlotte has a really incredible opportunity to embrace it and champion it. And I hope that it doesn't let its kind of pride of like, hey, no, we're fintech, we're not getting into this other whole new system. I hope that doesn't get in their way. And if there's any way that we can help contribute to that, I'm more than happy to. But I do think that's an important note.
Oh yeah, and David, I know for a fact, us being from Charlotte, we can see the potential, but when you have the granddaddy banks in Charlotte, it is kind of hard to push that Bitcoin adoption. Have you seen that as well, Jacob, with the group? Have you had like bankers come into the group and they're trying to push back against it?
Yes, absolutely. What they came in for was blockchain, buzzword blockchain this, blockchain that, and from all the industries. But there were some bankers suits coming in, and it became very apparent that some of us core guys had to stand up and say, wait a second, what is blockchain providing for you? Is this something that is actually going to help you? And most didn't really care at the time. They just, their corporations were just saying, hey, we're on full throttle on this, hiring people to do whatever. And pretty much to this day, it's still kind of hard to pinpoint what has come of the blockchain craze. And this is like 2017. 2018, I think, when all this was going on. So, but the shift has changed with the meetup. It's people are starting to understand that a little better, and they're actually digging into what money is, and the prices definitely keep getting people excited, and they're really trying to understand what's going on here in the city. So that's really exciting right now. Mm-hmm.
Yep, and I remember that era of 2017. Everything was. We had a Long Island blockchain, we had Kodak blockchain. Everything was just throw a blockchain on it, and that's sort of the thing in Charlotte. That when the bankers showed up, that's what they thought they could control. But then you hear about Bitcoin, it's like, hold on, we can't control this. I'm good. So I had the same experiences, and David, do you think any local officials will start to acknowledge Bitcoin, because a lot of them get their donations from bankers, from the banks in the city? Do you think they'll acknowledge it or create some sort of rules around it like fintech?
I think they should. And there's actually a little bit of a precedent for it, right? It's like, in my opinion, it's the perfect prime time, because you weren't the first mover, right? Like, you see what Wyoming has done with their kind of legislation. So just go call up Cave and Long, copy and paste that, swap out North Carolina, and let that be the basis of your framework. And then you see what they're doing in Kentucky with kind of like subsidizing, Bitcoin mining in the States. Like, there's all of these first movers that have made that move. But now we can kind of step in and take that arbitrage opportunity where somebody else is taking that initial risk, but now we can capitalize on it. So I think if they haven't started doing that, they should, to answer your question.
Oh, let me just give you a hand clap for that, David, because again, I'm sure all of us have spoken to people in Charlotte that are important, but they don't understand we have opportunity to be bigger than Wyoming and Kentucky, because we have the infrastructure and we have the money. You just got to switch what you're doing. I sort of compare it to North Carolina being a tobacco state. But then marijuana gets legalized and nobody wants to switch over their crops. I'm like, we have all the crops. Why don't we just take over? So same thing with Bitcoin, maybe able to do that. So one last question here for you both, and I'll start with you, Jacob. Just today, Bitcoin and even Ethereum actually passed every bank in market cap. So higher than JP Morgan, higher than Bank of America. They're both higher than that as a money system. So looking into the year 2040, do you think there's a chance for Charlotte to pivot and become a Bitcoin over a banking city?
2040?
2040. We got 20 years. You think it'll happen by then?
I think by that time, there's going to be a lot more going on than just Charlotte. I think people are going to be thinking a lot more in terms of stats instead of dollars. I mean, that's a long time in Bitcoin space. And the way that I see this going right now, I mean, shoot, let's just talk 4 years out and things are going to be wild. So, yeah, absolutely. I think the shift is going to happen. If it's not embraced, we have an opportunity, like you guys said, just for Charlotte to really embrace this new financial revolution. And if they don't want to do that, then it's not going to be good. But it's going to happen. It's inevitable. So I think many cities around the world are going to be embracing Bitcoin because they have to.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yep. Everyone capitulates at some point, right? So David, to you, 2040, do you think we can make that pivot in Charlotte to a Bitcoin city?
Yeah, I think so. I'm definitely optimistic. I think a lot of the work by Robert Breedlove and Christian Krols and they're talking about like these sovereign companies and Balaji's. And I think Bitcoin is just going to enable us to have like such a more decentralized economy where people can capitalize on these jurisdictional and political arbitrage opportunities, right? And if we make that more friendly in Charlotte, like we're going to capitalize on it by 2040. It's going to, be a utopia. I love it.
Oh yeah. And I feel the same way. And running around with the Bitcoin sweatshirt in 2014, nobody understood, but by next happening, like you said, Jacob, 4 years, I think we'll see that. So, definitely something to look forward to in Charlotte. And I hate the fact that we have to end the interview here, but I want to thank you both for coming on, for discussing Charlotte, Bitcoin in a banking city. Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, David.
Thank you so much.
And that's it for this episode of Community Crypto. And every week, we're building a global community with local crypto groups. So be sure to tune in every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern on CoinDesk TV. See you then.